Discus that we've established. So my name's Mark Chapman. I'm the England Athletics Talent Lead for Discus. I'm also an academic. I'm a program lead at University of Greenwich for sports science. I've been coaching for over 30 years and have taken numerous athletes to international championships. So a lot of experience, good and bad. So the purpose of this session is to explain the component phases of the England Athletics technical framework for Discus, and then secondly, to offer you the opportunity to ask questions at the end. And if you post them into the text box, then we can tackle those at the end. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is that the framework, we developed the framework basically to just give us points when we're working with the England talent program. And we've got senior, junior, and youth talent programs now, and we wanted some consistency of how we were feeding back technical points to the athletes. So we came up with a framework that helped us to do that. So the model's not set in stone. I need to make that point, and it can evolve over time. Each phase is broken down into three parts: head and trunk, arms and shoulders, hips and legs. We need to remember that each athlete is unique, and there's always outliers, and there's a difference between a technical point and a style. So as long as we don't mind different styles, but we need to look at the basic framework to be correct to become a competent thrower. And just a point on the videos, these are used purely for the phase examples. At the end, I'll go through using the template around a video of an athlete that I actually coach at the moment. So the whole technical model is broken down into 5 main phases, and they are preparation, entry, airborne, transition, delivery, and then the last one is not really a phase, but it's an overall view of the whole throw. So the first phase that we talk about is the preparation phase, and this is from peak backswing position, so when you rotate and wind up, to the point where the right foot comes off the floor. The 3 components of the preparation phase are the trunk in an athletic position, and I'll talk about that in a second. Both arms shoulder height and at full extension. Discus is swung back until it is behind the right hip. The left arm is kept inside of the left hip. Feet should be just outside shoulder width for most people. If you're a very tall athlete, they might be slightly wider than that, but generally just outside shoulder width. Legs slightly flexed, and the center of mass directly between the feet. So what I want to talk about an athletic position to start off with, because it's mentioned a lot in literature and in webinars like this, and not everyone realizes exactly what it is. It's basically a ready position. So the feet shoulder width or slightly wider apart, the knees slightly bent, the trunk slightly flexed forward, so you're very slightly leant forward, and that's an athletic position. If you was to push someone, or if you was to jump, take a 2-footed jump, and how you land is generally in an athletic position. If you look at tennis players waiting to receive a serve, they are in an athletic position. So that's what we mean by an athletic position. Now I'll show you a video of the preparation in a second, but I want to cover the entry phase, which is the next phase, first, because the videos, I've used one video to cover both phases. So the entry phase is from when the right foot comes off the floor to when the left foot comes off the floor. So as you leave the back of the circle. The 3 components, again, are trunk in an athletic position, both arms shoulder height and at full extension, right arm behind the hip, left arm inside the left hip. Now, what we want to see as we start to unwind is that the thighs end up in an inverted V position, and I'll show you that in the video in a second. The left foot is turned until it's starting to point to the direction of the throw. Now, if you listen to Gary's presentation last week, he was talking about how the first movement after wind up is to drive the left heel out towards the back of the circle. So that starts our movement. A common mistake that we see a lot is that the left arm goes first, not the left heel. We want to see the center of mass transfer over the left leg as the right knee and foot pushes out at 180 degrees to the direction of the throw, and we want the right foot to be plantar flexed, and that's toe up. The right leg is swung round until in a sprinting position towards the direction of throw. Left leg leaves the back of the circle with an approximate 30-degree shin angle. And I'll talk about that once we show the videos. So if you can show the first video, Nick. What's going on there? Okay. So this is the first video, and it looks at the preparation. So the athlete winds up, and as she starts to come round, the thighs are in an inverted V position. She's taken her weight over the left, although I'd like it to be a little bit more than that over the left, but that she takes her weight over the left, and her right knee and hip push out towards the back of the circle. She then turns her left foot until it's pointing. So the movement, if you notice the movement, when she gets to wind-up position, full wind-up position, the next movement is the left heel driving out. And then it rotates until it's pointing towards the direction of throw. As you can see, the right leg is swung out, dorsiflexed with the toe up. And then we're looking to see a shin angle, and in the next video, Nick, if you can put the next video up, you'll be able to see the shin angle at approximately 30 degrees. Put the next video up, Nick, please. Right, so Nick's laptop's died, so I'm going to have to try and find a video to go on to the next part, otherwise we'll pick it up in a second. Right, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. So Nick's controlling all the videos, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get the videos into the presentation. Right, hopefully you can see this now. So this is preparation and entry from a side view. So what I want to show you here is the angle of the left leg as she starts to leave the back of the circle. And it's an approximate, it's a little bit high, but the angle of that left leg is critical. What we try and do is drop the knee towards the middle of the circle to increase acceleration across the circle. Rotates, left leg at shin angle approximately 30 degrees. Nick's laptop's making a horrible noise, I can hear it. I can't get rid of this video. Sorry about this, technical issues. I can't move the presentation on at the moment. Alright, I'm going to stop it and start. Okay, let's see if I can pick it up where we were. So we've gone through the first two phases, the preparation phase and the entry phase. And I've shown you the two videos that show those technical points that we're looking at. So the next phase is the airborne phase. And this is from the left foot takeoff, so as the left foot leaves the back of the circle, excuse me, to when the right foot touches down in the middle of the circle. So the points we're looking at, the components of this phase are: the trunk is slightly leant forward with chest up towards the direction of throw. Both arms are still at shoulder height and at full extension. Right arm behind right hip, left arm inside of left hip. And the third point is that we then want to see them sprinting towards the direction of throw. And the right foot lands in the middle of the circle with the heel slightly up. So the heel's off the floor, but quite close to the ground. So probably a centimetre or half an inch off the floor. If one of the problems we see is if the right foot is too high, so the heel's too far off the floor, what happens is you stop rotating and the heel just hits the floor. And then you have to pick it up again, so it delays the lower body moving. Let me see if I can find the video for that. Okay, so this is the airborne phase. So as the left foot comes off, and then we land with on the right foot with the heel, as you can see, the heel is slightly off the floor. Center of mass is over the right leg. If I was being critical, I'd say that the left arm needs to be extended more, but the right hand is in a good position. Okay. So that's the airborne phase. The next phase is the transition phase. And this is from when the right foot touches down in the middle of the circle to the left foot touching down at the front of the circle. The three components we look for are: the head is relaxed and the trunk is in an athletic position, but slightly leant forward over the right leg. So where you landed from in that last video, if you looked at where the athlete landed, over the right leg, trunk slightly flexed forward over the right leg, then that's a good position to be in. Both arms shoulder height relative to the trunk and at full extension. Again, right arm or right hand behind right hip and left arm inside of left hip. Center of mass remains over the right foot whilst the right hip knee complex starts to rotate towards the direction of the throw. The left knee passes close to the right and touches down with the hips at 90 degrees to the direction of throw. So let me just find that video. Right, I'm going to show you the full throw because it's easier to talk about. So we're talking about from the point that the right foot hits the middle until the left foot hits the floor. See if I can do it with a slider. So we're talking about from this position here when the right foot lands in the middle to when the left foot touches the floor. So the right hand, the discus hand, is still behind the right hip. The right hip knee foot complex has started to turn. The left arm, I would probably like it to be slightly extended from that position, but that's the transition position. Oh, going back to that. Let's find the. So that was the transition phase I just showed you there. The delivery phase is obviously from the left foot touching down to release. What we want to see here is the trunk extending, the right arm held long and wide, the left arm pulls tight into the trunk to help brace in the left side, and the right hip knee complex rotates until facing the direction of the throw. The left foot hip knee foot complex braces. So what I like to look at is the left heel coming down, because if the left heel doesn't come down, the left foot continues rotating and doesn't brace, and it only has to hit the floor for a split second to create the force around the left from the right side. So I'll go back and show you the full throw again. I've got I've got a fixed foot delivery to show you. So this is a fixed foot delivery. Debbie, if you're there, it's Sam, so sorry about that. I nicked it. So this is Sam Calloway, and she throws with a fixed foot. The previous full throw I showed you was Phoebe, who uses a reverse delivery technique. So fixed feet, generally common with female athletes more than male. So as you can see, Sam fixes her feet, fixes the left, or tries to fix the left, and then rotates the right around it with a nice wide right arm at full extension for delivery. Chest is quite, the trunk is quite in good extension here, so not a bad position. The only critical part of this that I would say would be that she lets her left foot slide around slightly. So that heel is very slightly off the floor, which is allowing the left foot to rotate. If she can get the left foot heel down, then she'll obtain a lot more force on delivery and then increase her velocity of release. So I'll now show you that the reverse from Phoebe. So Phoebe goes into a reverse. She does get her left heel down before she actually goes into the reverse movement. So she's still generating the force. can find that position. So the left heel comes down, and then she can extend and brace into the delivery in reverse. Much more common with male throwers than female, but that's the two different delivery methods that we use. So that's covered the fifth phase, the final phase, and that's the delivery. What I want to talk about now is an overall way of viewing the throw. So we've covered all the components, and this is more about putting them all together. So the three components we got for the overall throw are rhythm, sequence, and acceleration. So rhythm, so the throw exhibits a rhythmical element, flowing, build up speed, and there's no awkward pauses or periods where the movement was staccato or out of time. The sequence, all elements of the throw are sequenced in the right order with a specific attention on legs, trunk, and arms. So in all the throws, really, the legs move first, then the trunk, and then the arms. And that helps with the final point, which is acceleration. So we want to see the throw demonstrates an acceleration through all elements, through all of the phases, with no static phases or with minimal deceleration. Most importantly, the implement builds speed throughout the throw and leaves the hand at the point of its highest velocity. And all of these segments, these phases and things we look for, once it's put together, increases the velocity of the discus. And ultimately, the velocity of the discus is the biggest factor that governs how far it goes. So what I want to do now is just talk through the framework itself in relation to Phoebe, the full throw. So I'll read this out first, and then I'll put the video back on. So in the preparation phase, point 1, point 2, point 3 is the three components that we're looking for. Now I've put a 1 down for each component, which means she achieved what I wanted to look, what we were looking for in that framework. I also can put comments in after that, so you'll see that the result was 3, so she got the 3 points right, correct. And then my comment for her would be, I'd like the center of mass slightly further over her left, and to try and push the right and knee hip out a little bit more. The next phase is the entry. Again, she got the 3 points right. The 3 points being athletic position, arms fully extended, right arm behind, right hand behind right hip, left hand inside, left arm inside left hip. And then the final one for entry would be shin angle at 30 degrees, compressing over the left leg. I can go through those again in a minute. So my comment for this would be, I'd like center of mass to push further over the left and to compress the left leg a little bit more. Now that's quite an important point about compressing the left leg, because, and I'll bring up the video now because I want you to have a look at that. Right, I'll show this one first. So what I want to see is her taking her center of mass over that left leg, and it can go over there a little bit more than that, and then compressing her weight into that left leg. The more she can compress into that left leg, the more force she can generate as she then goes across it. So we we turn, drop the knee, and I'll bring up the other video. So she's going to turn, drop that left knee, so the shin angle is at approximately 30 degrees. Now, if she puts a lot more weight onto that left leg, that allows her to generate more force as she comes across the circle. One of the common errors that we see, especially in young throwers, is they don't move their centre of mass over their left leg. They just spin round their left and then kick the right foot straight across the circle, and that's termed a swing kick. The problem with that is that you don't generate the force into the left leg, and you lift high out the back of the circle and land quite heavily on your right foot in the middle of the circle, which then stops you rotating the right. Okay, we're ready? Let's get started again. So I left my assessment of Phoebe in a full throw. We'd covered preparation and entry, and now we're on to airball. So again, when I was assessing her against the model, she scored 1 in each phase, in each component of the phase. But again, I'd make the comment that I'd like her left arm to be slightly longer. So let me just bring the video up again. So the point I'm trying to make for the airborne phase, so it's from this point here to when her right foot lands. So not bad. I just like her left arm to be slightly more extended to get a little bit more balance across the shoulders. So that covers the airborne phase. The transition phase, so I only scored her 1 on this. You need to be reasonably critical if you're going to help these athletes improve. But she scored. Let me go back to the transition phase just to show you what the points were. So the points were head relaxed, trunk in an athletic position, slightly bent over her right leg, which she was. Both arms shoulder height relative to the trunk and at full extension. So her left arm wasn't in full extension, so I didn't give her okay that specific component. The next part of it is centre of mass remains over right foot, whilst their right hip knee complex starts to rotate towards the direction of throw. Left foot passes closer to the right knee. That's again is another important point. A lot of athletes have quite a wide path of the left foot. We need the left foot to be as linear as we possibly can from when it leaves the back of the circle to when it hits the front of the circle. And a common term we use to help with that for the athletes is to tell them to bring the knees together. So let me just show you the video again. Let me take you through this. So the point I want to make about the left foot here is from when it leaves the back of the circle here to when it hits the front of the circle there, we need it to be as straight as possible. And we've spent a lot of time trying to reduce the width of that left foot, so it increases the speed of the left foot. The whole idea behind that is if the left foot hits earlier, and this still needs to be better. For me, I'd want her left foot grounded in about that position, but she keeps rotating a little bit. It opens up a little bit, so there's still more force that can come out of that throw if she can get her left foot down quicker. So that's the transition phase. The delivery phase, again, I've given her 0 for point 1, 1 for point 2, 0 for point 3. She needs to keep her shoulders further back to get a better extension of the torso, which would help bracing of the left side. So, again, I need to bring up the video for this last part. So on the delivery phase, I'd like the shoulders to be slightly further back. They're getting a little bit ahead of over the top of the hips. They need to be slightly behind them, and that'll help her extend through the delivery phase of the throw. But overall, so for the overall, we're talking about rhythm, sequence, and acceleration. So Phoebe has good rhythm. She has good sequencing. So each phase connects to the next phase. Every part of the body moves in the right sequence. And she accelerates the discus from the start here to the last point. So her release point is her fastest point. So it's quite smooth, rhythmical, the sequence is right. But a lot of athletes we see where that isn't right. They'll stop at some point in the throw, or one part of their body will stop at one point in the throw. So hopefully that explains how I've used the technical template to assess that throw, that last throw of Phoebe's. So for me, good rhythm, good sequence. I've not given her a point for the acceleration, mainly because she needs to increase the speed of her left foot. So if she can get it to the front quicker while she's still rotated more, then she'll create more velocity in the release. Then how we use this framework is then we look at the result column, we can add these up and then we can give them a score. And the next time we see them, we want not only to look at the points we've raised, have they changed, have they improved, but it just gives them an overall score. So they might go from 15 out of 21 or something to 16 or 17. So they're making improvements. So that's how we use the framework, and it's just to create some consistency and give us a framework to attach comments to that helps the athletes and the coaches understand the points we're trying to make. The last slide is basically a signposting slide for anyone that wants to know about movement skills, event group modules, regional coaching, and the talent. So you've got the talent event leads for each event there of the throws, and then the regional leads. Okay, and thank you for watching and listening.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Mark. Really enjoyed that. Really insightful. Yeah, we've had a couple of questions come in, so I'm just going to flag them up, and hopefully we'll get some answers from them. I think one of the bits that I wanted to try and raise with this is, like, obviously this is going to give us some sort of statistic information because we'll have point scores on them, but statistics should start the conversation and not end it. So it's only ever going to be a guide to, you know, work with that coach athlete partnership and sort of support them, and hopefully try and help them to create programs that are accountable and, you know, going to focus on some of their key areas. So
exactly,
flag up a couple of questions for you, Mark. So So first one we had in, is that going to publish itself? Yes.
Yeah.
So do you teach a specific direction for your right foot to be pointing as it touches down in the middle? So seen some conflicting advice. So as that right foot comes down in the center of the circle, which direction do you put?
So my simple answer to that is no, I don't ask for a specific point. I'll watch and where it is landing naturally. But you'd expect it to be 9 o'clock or 90 degrees to the direction of throw, or 180 degrees to the, so pointing towards the back of the circle. Somewhere between there. It varies for throwers. It depends on how good they are at turning their right foot as well. So you want it turned further if they're not so good. But for me, it would be more of a natural thing that I might work on it if it created a problem of the right foot not turning. But other than that, I don't teach a specific direction.
Thanks, Mark. I'm just going to unpublish that one. And another question in from Jenny. So the way she coaches at a school, there is no cage. So any tips for coaching secondary school students, please? Obviously, you've got to take into consideration it needs to be safe and all of that.
Yeah. So you can teach the standing throw. So that's a large part of the throw anyway. So understanding how you connect turning the feet, the right foot, bracing the left side, and delivering the discus are really useful and critical things you need to teach. And I always would start when I'm coaching a discus, make sure they can perform a standing throw efficiently. Then I suppose if you want to look at learning the full turn, that's one of the reasons why I like the rhythm, is that I teach the rhythm or get the athletes to understand the rhythm before I really teach the technical points of the turn. Because if they can just turn, jump and turn in the air and land, a lot of the time they get the feel of what that's like. Yes, you can look at the track and the width of a lane. You can put one foot on a lane, and then when you jump and turn, your right foot lands on another lane, and then your left foot lands on another lane.
So you're saying you focus on that movement pattern and on that developing a rhythm through the throw rather than.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me,
does it need to be with a full discus in a cage? Okay, so what recommendations would you have around trying to teach the full throw?
So you can put a towel in the hand. You can use a D ball. Although I prefer, when I'm initially teaching it, I prefer a towel because it's less load on the arm, and they can look at the rhythm of, especially at the legs and the hips. That's for me, the key of the rhythm of the throw. But once they start to understand that, then you can put a D ball in their hand and use that. Obviously, it's it's safer than a discus. So
yeah, I think with large
5 tips.
With large groups as well, I think it's key to you can have them all in the center throwing out all different directions. They could be throwing balls. You could still do it where it's measurement for distance with a full throw, but it's not necessarily you have to do it. Discus.
It depends on what's allowed and what isn't allowed, but I mean you can use clubs like bowling pins and use those to throw as well. And actually, even elite athletes are using tools like that, so they don't actually throw the discus all the time. Myself, especially in the winter, I use a D ball a lot, throwing into the cage. So you can throw a D ball, which is safer than throwing a discus. So hopefully that sort of answers your question.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Another question in, it's about the compression. Is the compression you refer to as same as stretch shortening cycle or loading of tendons in the shank lower leg?
Right. So when I refer to compressing the left, it means loading. So take your center of mass into the left leg and load it. Then as you rotate your left, when you're looking at the knee dropping, I don't think you're getting it's not quick enough for a stretch shortening cycle, but it definitely loads the tendons, especially around the Achilles. So it gives you more force as you come off the left. So by dropping the left knee to the middle, getting the shin angle at approximately 30 degrees, you're increasing the loading of the tendons, which you're going to get back as you come off the left foot.
Okay. I hope that answered your question. Just whilst people are writing in there, typing their own question, one from me, Mark. So you talked about the framework and how you can use videos or whatever to assess based on that framework and give them points awarded, whether they've hit that the key points in that phase or not.
Yeah.
How do you as a coach approach, like, what's your decision-making process as to what you focus on? So Phoebe, obviously good standard throw, she's on the senior talent program. She had really good scores in the first few phases, and then was getting less points later on in the phase. So I just wanted to see, how would you, where would you focus your attention working with Phoebe, and also, like, what is your decision process that you use that other coaches might be able to use as a bit of a guide?
Yeah. So I won't talk about Phoebe initially. So I'll talk about any thrower really that I look at. We look at it from back to front. So I'll look at the back of the circle, and I'll try and correct that or make it as efficient as possible before I move on. And the reason being that if it starts correctly, then you can go and work on the next phase. If it starts badly, you're never going to be able to correct that. So there's no point in looking at delivery on a turn if you can't coach the back, if the athlete can't perform the back of the circle efficiently, because you won't get the rhythm, you won't get the sequencing, and therefore you won't get the acceleration. So I always look at the back of the circle first, and I spend much more time coaching the back of the circle than anywhere else, because we know once the back is working well and efficiently, the rest of the throw largely sorts itself out, and then we're only tweaking the bits further on. So in terms of Phoebe, so as you said, Nick, the first few phases she does well, and it took us a while to get to that point, but she does that consistently well now. So for me, the important points for Phoebe are speed of left foot from the back of the circle to the front of the circle. And how we speed that up is by decreasing the radius of that left foot. So I want it being much more linear than rotational. And that's not an easy thing to do, but that's where we're trying to work now. The reason being that if you can get the speed of the left foot quicker, she's in a much more wound position when the left foot hits the ground. So she's pulling the discus over a longer range, which would then increase the force and the velocity that she can deliver the discus at. So that's the left foot. That's quite an important part that we're working on at the moment. And the other point is bracing on the left side and making sure. Phoebe used to have a problem with her left foot. She just couldn't get the heel down on a feet down throw. Quite surprisingly, she can ground the left heel in a reverse because it's only for a brief point.
Okay, good insight. So they'll focus on the back, and then once they've almost earned the right, they can progress on to stuff in the middle and
exactly
then the front.
Okay, I don't see the point in coaching further into the throw if the back's going to be consistently wrong, because you just don't achieve anything.
Yeah, I think that's well highlighted with the presentation from Gary Power as well. Okay, so question from Rob. On the point of the earlier progressions for young athletes, would you say there's a good crossover between rotational shot and introduction to discus for similar movement skills? So can we kill two birds with one stone by putting rotational shot put and discus work in together?
A simple answer is yes. The lower limb movement, the hips and legs down, are very similar. We just have to remember that with the shot, you're rotating around the shot, and the discus is rotating around the athlete. So there are some differences, but a lot of the lower body movement is exactly the same. So once an athlete, and this is again why I go back to rhythm, once an athlete can learn the rhythm, and the rhythms for rotational shot and discus are virtually the same, then yes, you can kill two birds with one stone if that athlete, like a lot do, does both events.
So just to pick up on that rhythm, what would you coach as the rhythm? What do you mean when you say the rhythm?
So the rhythm, and Gary highlighted this is in his presentation, is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is the rhythm we want. So,
Okay.
and that's, you can hear it. You don't even have to watch. You can hear the feet and the sweep of the feet with that rhythm. I was going to make a point about something. I forgot what it was now. No, it's gone. If I think about it, I'll
got some more questions coming in, so you're all right. Okay, so we've got a good question in from Mr. Power himself. Do you get the athletes to review their own throwing on the framework?
Yes, simple answer. And funny enough, I was in a conversation with one of the athletes that's on the youth talent program, and I was saying to him, go back and look at the points that were made on your framework, your technical framework, and then you can use that at this current situation when we're in lockdown. Look at drills that are going to help with those points that we raised. So it's good for the athlete, it's good for the coach to look at the points raised around the framework and then start to go and work on those. So yes, I do get the athletes to review their own framework. Good. I also get them to view their own videos, and I want them to connect what they see in a video to how it feels, because the athlete needs to feel it. They're the ones throwing it. So that's quite an important point, that the athlete, I need to teach an athlete how to feel key positions. And it takes a little bit of time, but once they start to get it, you get good feedback, and then you can make quicker progress.
So is there any tips you would give to help the coaches help the athletes to develop feel? So development feel is a really, really challenging thing. Some people, sometimes what they're saying isn't necessarily right, but it is what they're feeling. So have you got any tips on getting athletes to develop feel for the discus and feel for those key positions as mentioned?
So initially I would take an athlete through by hand. I'll take them into the positions by hand, put them in a position, get them to feel it, come out of the position, go back into it. Do you feel any differences? And sometimes I'll show them the wrong position so they get the feel between good and bad. And then get them to just move, and then it's a learning process for them. So that's what I tend to do.
Okay, thank you. Another question in from the group. Any key activities we can do whilst we don't have access to cages and circles?
Yeah, so
no idea why I flip those.
Loads of different drills you can do, and we have different drills for different parts of the whole turn. So we might do a 360 drill, which is for the back of the circle, where we start the starting position, preparation position, we wind, we turn on the left foot, and we end up being in exactly the same starting position. So this teaches us how to control how hard we drive the left foot. It also allows us to work on right foot sweep. And an athlete that can do a hard drive with the left foot and land in the starting position under control is always going to have a good entry into the turn. And then we can look at pivot drills where we have the right foot in the middle, and then we just rotate the left round to the delivery position. So there's lots of different drills that we can get the athletes to do. Then of course just normal training. So jump in and circuit training. If you haven't got access to any equipment, we need to be doing explosive type movements, even in our gardens.
So Debbie, I don't know whether you attended the session that I did on adapted training programs and things for heavy throwers, but that is available on Athletics Hub. So that might give you some more ideas for your own training at the minute.
Yeah.
Hope that was useful. Any more questions? Sorry?
I said, Debbie, I'll message you.
Any other questions that people are coming in want to answer now? So Andrew's typing. Oh, just to thank you. Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes left if you want to ask any questions. If not, we'll start wrapping up. So yeah, you've got Mark. If I flag on the signposting page again, Mark is one of your talent event leads. So please, follow up with this afterwards. If there's any specific questions, I'm sure Mark will answer when he can. They're your other regional coaching leads. If you want to drop them a message, get in touch with them. Yeah, hope it's been useful. Like I say, we've got the last couple of minutes, and then
But yeah,
we'll let you.
if people get in contact with us, we're always answer questions. So feel free.